sitting here at Pride Square in Copenhagen for the World Pride. Why is it that you are attending?
I'm attending because I have a son who is 13 years old, and he just told us he was pansexual. And actually I didn't know what that was before he told me about it. I only thought we had gays and lesbians and all the others, but not in between.
So, now that you just told me that you don't know that much about genders,
Yes.
what do you know about gay rights then?
Gay rights. I know that in Denmark, gays are allowed to get married, and I think that's it.
So, if I told you like that an LGBT couple can't like adopt unless they are married, what do you think about that?
I don't agree about that because I don't see it's a difference for straight people or not straight people to have kids. So if other people are allowed to have kids and adopt kids and not being married, I can't see why other people shouldn't have a right to do that. Even if they're gays or lesbian or what they are. They should have the same rights.
Okay. Then if we look like in Poland, Hungary, they have like LGBTQ plus free zones where religious people have said that we don't want LGBT people in here. What do you think about that?
Oh my God, that's horrible. And I'm not gonna start crying, but that hurts a lot that you have zones for people that didn't do anything. They're not criminal, they're not on drugs. No, I don't get that. That's scary, very scary.
So what do you think that you as a straight person can do to, you know, help out with the LGBTQ rights in Europe in general?
I think I can help by being open and speak up and participate in something like this and speak out what I feel about it.
Do you think that if the straight community wanted to, that they could make politicians take different choices?
Yes, I think so. I think so. In Denmark.
In Denmark.
Yeah, in Denmark. This is kind of special because other countries are very Hitler-like. Sorry, but it's very hard to not be straight in other countries, I think.
You're from the UK, and I wondered how is like the LGBTQ rights in the UK at the moment?
At the moment, I think it's pretty good. I feel quite privileged to come from there. You know, in comparison to other countries, I think we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go, for sure.
Is there any particular areas there where you think that you guys are lagging behind?
I think where it comes a little bit, it gets a bit politicized and commercialized, and it starts to get lost in that. Because London is, you know, it's obviously very commercial and it's very capitalistic, and I think sometimes it's more about how much money we can make out of, you know, the gays or the LGBTQIs, whatever, than, you know, really supporting.
Well, we also have, at least here in Denmark, we're talking a lot about transgender rights. Mm-hmm. Is that a big topic in the UK as well?
It is becoming that way, yeah, for sure. I think it's something that's been more recent years. And also, like, I think as a gay man, I think I'm learning more about transgender rights than I ever did before. So it's definitely a newer trend.
First off, how is it to be LGBT person in Belgium?
Well, to be an LGBTQI person in Belgium, it really does depend on who you are and how you define. More often than not, it can be quite okay if you are within the binary. So if you're a cisgendered person and you're LGBTQI, life is more or less kind of okay. But if you come from an intersectional background, then it can be a bit more difficult. But of course, there's a lot of different aspects of being LGBTQI and cisgendered, saying if you want to have a family, there are still obstacles in the way. If you are a gay man and you are leaning more towards femininity, or you express your femininity a bit more, it can be troublesome to actually hold hands with your partner across the streets. I think in Belgium we still have a bit of a fear to express who we are in the streets for fear of repercussion, of course.
Well, but when you look at like a rank list from ILGA, you're on the second place.
We are number 2. We are number 2.
But from what you're saying, it sounds like you have kind of like the same issues as everybody else.
Yes, we do have the same issues as everybody else, because when you look at the ILGA list, yes, with regards to legislation that is in place, we do have a really strong anti-discrimination law, which basically holds basically 19 criteria. So of course, from a legislative point of view, we are protected. And in 2018, we did have the transgender law, which was extremely inclusive and which really did help trans people make much more leeway with regards to their rights. But when you talk about LGBTQI people, it's an extremely diverse group of people already in and of itself. When you look at the ILGA index, who are we speaking of? Who are we speaking to? We're talking about people who fall within the binary, who tend to be more privileged, who tend to be more cisgendered, and who tend also to be white. At the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. When we talk about people who are coming from an intersectional background or an intersectional identity, that's when things become a little bit more difficult, but also because we just don't have the data with regards to what is happening. So we know respectively that racism is an issue, that anti-LGBTQI sentiment and rhetoric is there, but looking at it from an intersectional point of view, we still don't have the data with regards to that. And that's also something that needs to change from a European stance as well.
You've lived abroad for quite some time, but when you lived in Malta, how was like the gay rights there?
I spent the first 22 years of my life in Malta and then was moving around, going back sometimes. So it's like a bit of two different lives, because when I was young, it's like even the word gay in a way did not exist. Malta has come a long way since then, because it has, at least on a legal level, there are a lot of rights. But I think the difficulty is that at times it does not match where people's perspectives have changed or not. So I think there is a bit more acceptance, there is more, at least awareness. And definitely gay people are more, or LGBTQ people are more visible nowadays. But still, some attitudes still lag behind, I think.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny, because when you look at it politically, like law-wise, Malta is top level, but you say that the Maltese people not really...
Yeah, I think education on that level has lagged a bit behind, and you can change laws very rapidly, but it doesn't mean that the mentality of the people changes. I'm not saying that it hasn't changed. It is changing. That's how I would describe it. It's also true, I think, that gay rights were part of or LGBT rights were part of the political manifesto as well, unfortunately. There's also the religious side in Malta, which of course has an impact. It is shifting on some levels positively and not on others.
Yeah. Nick, when we talk about LGBT rights in Malta, do you think that there is any places where you guys can improve? Because actually you're number 1 on the ILGA list.
Yes.
So is there anything that you guys can do to improve?
We always see a room for improvement. In fact, at the moment, Malta, the equality bill is being discussed. And we can experience, I even experienced it at the parliament when it was being discussed, where there are people in our parliament that want to modify it in a way that it won't give equal rights to everyone as it should be. So that's why I believe the fight it doesn't stop there. However, Plus with human rights, I mean, to have rights from a legal perspective, it doesn't mean that it's eradicating homophobia. So education and legal rights go hand in hand. However, on the other hand, educating people but you don't have the legal basis doesn't make you equal as well. So I think these are the two issues. Homophobia in Malta still happens. Like, for example, whenever we do Pride, on social media you get comments like from the straight people say, oh, we need a straight Pride as well in Malta. But you have a straight Pride every day in your life. This is our week where we're celebrating it and we're making it out there. So yes, I think education so it's not just having the legal thing. This also needs to be helped with the education of the people and the general community.
You guys just launched a strategy here in 2020. Can you try to explain what that is about and why?
It's the European Commission, Commissioner Dalli, the Commissioner for Equality, and we are very happy that for the first time the European Commission has one commissioner dedicated to equality. And Helena Dalli, as the European Commission, launched the LGBTI equality strategy, and the European Parliament was very much in the preparation. Commissioner Dalli worked very much with the European Parliament, but also with the civil society, with ILGA Europe, with the transgender associations, with rainbow family associations. So that's a strategy now for the next 5 years. Europe can do some things, but we can't do everything. We have the treaties and we have some competences. So it's very important that this strategy also says member states have to have national action plans, and the Commission is monitoring them and we are monitoring them, and therefore it's also important that members of national parliaments and the civil society in the member states push that this strategy is properly implemented. On the EU level, we will have two directives, which is two laws, major laws. One is to the recognition of families. Commissioner Dalli and President von der Leyen said if you're a parent in one country, you must be a parent in another country. So this is about free movement, that's European competences. We will have a directive. And also something very important is that hate crime and hate speech, and also when targeted towards LGBTI people, will be added to the list of Euro crimes. And and this is European law, so member states must transpose it into national law. So these are two major legislative points in this strategy, but there's also a lot of recommendations, and but we can't do everything from Brussels. We have to work together with the colleagues in national parliaments, but also with the colleagues, activists on the ground in the member states.
Well, if you take kind of the negative glasses on, how long do you think it will take for this strategy to be implemented into the European countries?
Well, we are confronted now. We're confronted now with a few member states where there is a lot of regression. So in many member states, I think I'm positive it will go forward, and there is already a lot achieved. Here in Denmark, but still, there can be backlashes everywhere, and we have to defend what we have. And especially, we also focus a lot on trans and intersex people. They have been in many countries forgotten, and we need also better legislation for them. So the strategy is for 5 years. I hope that there will be progress when we measure it, when we see the results in 5 years. But this is an ongoing fight, and we have to continue working for our rights, to get more rights, but also defending those we have. Because, as I said, you see what happens in Poland and in Hungary, and therefore I'm so happy that my friend Cyrus is here, who was so active in a resolution we voted in July to condemn the very anti-LGBTI legislation in Hungary.
I would actually like to dive down in transgender intersex a little bit. What are the main points on that in the strategy?
Well, for trans, it's that self-determination and depathologization. These are important aspects. And also for intersex, is a ban on medical intervention on babies if there is no medical need. This forced, these operations into this is something which should be banned. And some countries already have legislation, and this is something we have to to raise also more awareness of this, because this is mutilation of babies, and we cannot tolerate that here in Europe.
Well, what do you think is the long prospects of the Intergroup in Europe? Do you have anything planned next after the strategy, or?
Well, of course we are constantly, European legislation is evolving, and we are constantly monitoring what is going on, and we're trying to get organized also to be strong vis-à-vis the anti-gender movement, which is infiltrating also European politics. So we have to be very watchful and come up with ideas and push the Commission to do more, and push the Council to be active and to keep the LGBTI questions high on the agenda. And I always say that we don't fight for extra rights for LGBTI people. It's just about equality and the same rights. And this is sometimes people who are against us, they say, you want... No, it's just the same rights. And I think we're only equal until we're all equal.